Cool. That's recording.
These new lights are like the new age, aren't they? What is it, circle light? Or what is the technical name now?
The LED ring light?
Yeah. Because even for headshots, they can, you know.
I've seen people do makeup videos on that. I thought like, oh, welcome to my makeup video. Alright, we're rolling.
Hell yeah, man.
We're starting. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the UltimateBS podcast, a podcast where I interview every comic that's performed at my show and every headliner that's been there. And today with me I have comic Rob Banks. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on my show, dude.
This is the first time we've had like video, like legit video footage of my apartment, and now people will see.
Now you know what a comic's life is.
What type of squalor I live in.
Yeah, dude. He's gonna romance me with his flowers.
I know. I did clean up the place a little bit.
Yeah, just to like plug in your tags, you can follow Rob at
Comic Rob Banks on all the platforms.
You have a podcast called Banks Heist.
Banks Heist on iTunes.
And you're also the showrunner for the free show.
The free show at Fourth Wall. The first Friday of every month.
And how's that been going?
It's been going good.
Yeah, you started this like 6 months ago? The first show?
No, we've been doing it for over a year now.
Oh, wow.
It was like one of the first like consistent shows of Fourth Wall.
Yeah.
And so there was like that pride, as much pride as that can be at Fourth Wall.
Yeah. I mean, it's a place though.
Yeah,
right?
and people show up.
Yeah. I went to one of the shows. And I really liked it, and I thought, like, man, I want to run a show too, and then I started, working towards the show that I have now.
And your show is a big success.
You think so?
Yeah, the one that I went to go see all the comics battle out, and then when Eric Rocha performed, when he headlined, that was a great turnout.
You were there that night?
Yeah, that was the one I came and checked it out. I was like, this
cool.
is like a dope ass show.
Nice.
And then the following show was the one that I got to headline, and that was even a good turnout too.
Yeah, it was a smaller turnout. I don't know, like I've been apologizing.
But you still like had every seat filled. Like it's a small turnout. It's like that's when you can fill every seat. It's enough said. And then when you can add on when you one time we did a show where it was just like standing room only, and like the coolest thing about it was like we had people leave early. 3 people left their seats, and then 3 people who were hanging out outside came in and just took those seats right away.
Nice.
And that's like I think that's what you want.
Yeah.
When you run a show.
That's what I want. I want this show, the one that I'm running, like to be such a big thing that like I have to do it 2 times a month. You know, like just so that people can show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that you went to that one with Eric Rocha. That was a good show. But then, because when you went up, I was like, oh man, it's like this is like I can invite you, and like it's a small crowd, and it was a dead crowd, and it was like but still, it was an experience. I remember coming up to you one night. I was asking you about like what was like the worst show you ever had. You said like you had like only 5 people in the audience. But
I think, for the show that we did at Fourth Wall, I think the worst one we had was we just had one person show up. Oh. And it was like one of the girlfriends of the comics.
Was that like one of the first shows that you had?
Yeah, probably in the first like 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Because it's like a monthly show, and it's like we do 12 shows a year. And then we've done up to 6, I think, for this month. 6, and then the 7th will be for the month of August. But that has been we've had maybe 2 or 3 shows where only one person showed up.
Oh.
Whether it's someone who knows one of the comics, or someone who just walks by and is like, oh, I'll take some free beer, and hangs out.
I like that concept. I stole that from you guys. I think everybody stole that free beer.
Well, we stole it from Joe Manente. When he did his living room show, that's where he would do free beer. He was the original, the OG in that.
People are gonna come in, I've never been. I've wanted to go to his shows. Does he still run it?
Every now and then he'll do it. It seems like he used to do it once a month. Because when I first met Joe, it was the Fourth Wall. He didn't start the Fourth Wall yet. It was still just an insurance office.
So you know Joe from way back.
I probably 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
So I think he's had that place open up for 2 years. But But before he opened that, he had his living room show, which was like a monthly show, and then he would do a show at the Residuals Tavern over on like Ventura and Vineland.
Okay. What's
and
that location like?
That was just like a dive bar type. And it was one of like the shittiest rooms you could do. Like everyone would just talk over you while you're like going through your set.
Yeah.
And like I remember one time I did a show and people would like literally walked over to the other side of the bar so they could watch like figure ice skating instead of watch comedy. I'm like, this is the first that I've been beat out by ice skating.
Yeah.
You know?
You know your material's not that good when it doesn't.
And I'm like, Jesus.
I mean, those Olympics were pretty awesome though.
Yeah. It wasn't in the Olympics.
No, it was just regular ice skating. It was a rerun.
It's like the one from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
What kind of shit is this?
Oh man. Man, that's funny. Like the only show I've had like that was an open mic at Oak's Tavern, which is also,
that's a
also
good
bar.
way to compare it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like you're the only one next to the pool table.
And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna stop doing that mic." I was like, "Good."
Yeah. So there's no mics
They
anymore?
stopped doing that. The owner of the Oaks Tavern hates stand-up comedy, and the fact that they did a mic there was like surprising.
Yeah, that's a success for as long as it went on for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was parking right next to it. I thought that was like apartment complex parking, and I parked like 3 blocks away, and I had to run. I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss the sign up. Do you visit more other mics other than the fourth wall?
Yeah.
What are your favorite mics in the?
I like Eno Vino a lot.
Okay.
That's over in like Atwater Village, and they do like I think Monday, Tuesday, and like Thursday and Wednesday. They do that place used to just be like a Thursday mic, and now that whole place has turned to like a comedy mecca. So they do like 4 shows a night, and and on the other nights they have open mics, and it's just a cool place to go to. And
I have to check it out.
Yeah, and they built it's like an online sign up. You guys have like a week in advance, and then they built that room to like you just like stand there with a microphone like the Oaks in like the corner of a room. Now it's like they built a stage, they reposition chairs so like it's better like logistically to get people in and out.
Yeah,
you know, it's cool to see what that has turned into.
They see the uprising of the open mics. Yeah, when I first started, there were like probably 10 mics a night. They were like all over LA, and I had to like run all over the place.
Right.
I used to drive like probably for half an hour to get like 2-3 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was like your go-to run? Like your
my run would start somewhere like in the place. It was a cafe shop. I'm like terrible with names, but it was a cafe shop like right off the 101. I would start there, then I would move inland to like the hotel one, and then
the Hollywood Hotel.
Yeah, and then there was like then I would drive back to the fourth wall to do a late night here. Before the fourth wall was doing the
slotted.
But my first open mic was at Flappers Bar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like when I realized how much, you know, like you would spend 2 hours there to get 3 minutes and there was nobody in the room, I realized that there was probably a better way to do this.
Yeah, there's a way better way than to go there. You know. But I started out there too, and it's like everyone usually starts there, and it's that same process of like
safe, right?
You do the bar, and then you're like, this cannot be how this goes,
right?
You know, and then you wait there for 2 hours, you know, and then it's just like that constant like waiting to go up.
Yeah. Well, I've had to be very strategic of the ways I go approach open mics. I stopped doing like the what do you call it, the bucket system. Bucket.
Yeah, I stopped doing that too.
First come, first serve, and sign up sheets. That's why I like the slotted system.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed everything. I mean, how often do you show up? How early do you go to like a first come, first serve?
And try to get there an hour early.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, just an hour early if they show. There was this one like all the way in LA that like it was a first come, first serve. It was in a bar. You had to buy the ticket, but there were people who lived in the area, and so they were there 2 hours earlier. Went back home, you know, and they came back, and I was just like, before I realized it, I was actually the last one there, even though I was early. And it was just like, okay, I'm not going to that one anymore.
Yeah.
Forgot the name of that one. I went to the Tao studio.
I've never done that one. I've always been intrigued to do it, but
it was nice because they would give you either chips or a Coke or a beer for $5, and I was like, okay, and it was, you know, the setup was nice. But the same thing, you know, it was a first come, first serve, and then people were already lined up outside the door before the guy even showed up. And kind of like how the fourth wall was before.
Yeah. Do you remember you get there at 8 and there'd be like 10 people outside?
Yeah. That's how you met people, though.
Yeah. And they'd be like, and then next week they'd be like, can you sign me up? And you're like, fuck you, man. Do you ever that have someone message you like, hey, can you sign me up for this mic? And I'm like, I'm not even going there.
No, I never had. I mean, like, I'm a very quiet guy, so like if I talk to some people, it was just like in and out of the conversation.
Yeah.
I've never even got some people's numbers. I think the first comic's number was actually Travis's number.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that was after, you know.
Right.
How long have you been doing stand-up?
I've been doing it for almost 6 years now.
6 years?
Yeah.
What made you get into it?
I just always wanted to get into it because I did a little bit on and off when I was like 16.
Okay.
And I was like, I remember watching like Dane Cook when he like blew up and did the Madison Square, and I was like, I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
You know, because I just saw where his career went, and I was like, that'd be something where I would love to just do stand up, and then also like try to do movies or like TV and like just get into that. And then as I've gone like more into stand up, I'm like, I just enjoy like the writing aspect of it too.
Writing? You mean like going through?
Like going through, like writing a joke out and just seeing the progress of it from like what it was to what the ideal finishing product is.
How long do you usually take for like on a joke?
It usually
From idea to like finished product.
I usually write out like a story or something, and then like I'll try like 3 times, and if I don't get anything from it, then I'm like, all right, I'm scrapping this, and I'll try to come up with something new. But if I write something in those 3 like tries, I have something, or like people laugh at a certain part, then also like focus on that and try to write that, and just try to think of like a different perspective of it.
Add to it.
Yeah, and or like just completely rewrite it. Sometimes I'll even like take a break and try to write something else, and then come back to that.
Do you go like by the format like premise first and then go, or do you just?
I try to like write out like a story and just keep like funny jokes in it, and then the ending is I just try to like exaggerate or just like take a strange turn that no one really expected.
Yeah, I guess that's what I've noticed about your jokes. Is that like they're very like they're gonna work. You know what I mean? Like I'm never surprised that like they didn't work. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, like because I've only seen you a couple times. Like, we never really run into each other at the fourth wall. But yeah, man, like I like your style.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out how to write myself.
And it takes time. I mean, for the longest time I didn't. When I first came out here, I moved out here when I was like 18, and I like started getting into it, and I used to just never write. I used to just go up with like a commercial that I saw on like TV I thought was funny, or like I'm like, isn't that fucked up, this commercial? And like no one will laugh. I'm like, something's not working here, you know?
Did it take you 4 years before you finally started figuring it out?
Sort of, yeah, because I think I sort of figure out the voice that kind of works for me. But it took a while. Yeah, it took probably like 4 years to just like finally have some like things click. Like, okay, now we're cooking here.
Now you're figuring it out.
You know?
Man, I feel I forget when my first official 2015 was the first time I ever did a stand-up set, and it's been 4 years now. So I was like, I still haven't figured it out.
Yeah. Well, did you stay like consistent when you first started?
No.
But yeah, I mean, when everyone starts, it's always like inconsistent, and like you don't really know.
Yeah,
you get like one foot in it, 1 foot out.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just memories.
But it was at Flappers, right? That first
no, actually, the first time I ever did stand up was at work. It was a what do you call it, a talent show at work. So like at my work, I work at Trader Joe's, and like back in the day, they used to have like this all-store meeting where like all crew members, like after the store closed, they would tell you like, oh, this is how we're doing in sales, and we're trying to work towards, and then they will have little games. And for this,
you guys would like eat all the food and stuff.
Yeah, they feed us.
Like lick the ice cream.
Drink. We got some good ice cream, man.
Have you seen those videos where the people lick the ice cream, put it back?
No.
Oh no.
No. I mean, we accidentally break things that we get to eat in the back. It's broken, you can't eat it. But no, yeah, we did the stand up, and it went well. Jokes related to the crowd could understand, and that was a moment where I was like, oh man, I wish I would have been doing this for a lot longer. But like before, I was 25, 26. And then there was a whole year after when I went to Flappers and did it, completely bombed, and then went back the next day, completely bombed, and I was like, okay, I guess this is what a bombing is, so I'm still doing it. So I just kept doing it after that. But not consistent. I still feel like I'm not consistent enough. I mean, you get to do it every night if you wanted, right? Like,
yeah, if I really want to.
Have you done a whole week in?
Yeah, I've done before. Now I feel like I don't go out as much. But I feel like there was like a year or two chunk where I went out at least every night for most of the weeks during the month.
So jealous.
You know, and then I also used to work at a country club, so I would have to work nights, like maybe 3 to 4 during the week. So like those nights I'd miss out on like doing a set, but those other nights I would try to go out and like I enjoy mostly like doing 2 or 3 a night. I'd rather do like 3 nights out of the week where I do 2 or 3 mics than trying to go up every night. So I feel like you can learn more just going up like back to back. Like,
yeah. You know, let it sink in and then
and you get comfortable on stage, and then like I think the one I did 3, like the third one I just felt so comfortable in like saying whatever I wanted to say, and you know, because it's like if you have something new you may be like a little nervous on like trying to get what you want to like say exactly, you know, so I know sometimes if I like write a longer bit I'm like if I don't take the time to like look it over, which I don't, then I go up there and I'm like, all right, I remember the first half, and now I don't know where I'm
just
going.
Just wing it.
Yeah, and it comes out unnatural. And
you're
then,
like, I thought this was funny at one point.
Yeah, you know.
And there's this bit that I've been mulling over in my head, but it's a long one, and I'm like, I don't know if I can spend the whole 5 minutes setting it up for just that one release. Like at the fourth wall, I don't know if that would work. Do you have any jokes like that just take a long setup?
Yeah, yeah. I have one joke that's like that, and usually I just try to make jokes in the build up, and just try to keep people interested.
Okay, that's smart.
You know,
little tidbits here and there.
Yeah, and that's how it kind of keeps everyone sort of like awake with it.
Have you taken any classes or anything?
Not for stand up.
No, read any books?
I've read like. I mean, the viewers at home won't be able to see the books if they can. I don't.
There's a whole library behind me. You know,
right?
Just like Ty Lopez has got nothing on Banks.
I mean, I've read Comic Insight, War of Art.
Oh, that's a great one. I have that one.
Yes, and then I have like screenwriting books, but and then I also read those. See, like I read those books, but I don't remember a lot of them. But I remember more about like Steve Martin, The Born Staying Up. I read his like biography, and that sort of stood out to me most, and like in his like road to success and everything like that. Like when he first started out, he would go down to the place in Anaheim, not Disneyland, but Knott's Berry Farm, I think, and he'd do like magic there.
I thought he was working at Disneyland, the magic shop in Disneyland.
Yeah, it was something like that. It might be Disneyland, it might be Knott's Berry Farm, but.
So
But
that's
yeah,
how he started,
that's how like when he first started performing when he was like 16, and then like he did a show. I remember this part really. He ended like a chapter on it. So he was talking about how he did the show in San Francisco, and he was walking out of the show, and they had the envelope of how much he made from that show, and I think he made like maybe like $400 or something like that. And like back then it was a lot.
Yeah.
He like said at that moment, he's like, I knew at that moment that I was going to be very rich, very successful, very famous.
That's awesome.
And that was like the end of the chapter. And so I was like that. That's one thing that was always.
You read it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to the audiobook.
Oh,
he
yeah.
reads it, and it doesn't sound as animated. Like he's got a very like dark kind of tone to like his stand-up. I mean, his story, and I actually kind of felt kind of sad from the story. I was just like, man, this is like a very dark turn where like sometimes he doesn't even remember being on stage, and that's what I related to. I don't remember being on stage sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, there's moments where I like didn't. I just like
black out and then
just blacked out. The adrenaline rush would go up. And you just like don't even realize what just happened.
Yeah. I always think I sucked in those moments. I was like, oh fuck, that's so terrible. And then you listen, I was like, okay, there was some laughs.
Yeah, when you listen before you listen to the audio, you're like, oh, I did so bad, and then you listen to the audio, you're like, oh, I didn't do too bad.
Yeah.
You know.
You record every set?
Yeah, I do.
Have you deleted any?
I usually delete the open mic ones.
Oh, that's smart.
But all the ones I have from like whatever shows I do, I keep.
You keep uploading.
But I rarely listen to those. I listen to the open mic ones the most.
Yeah, I have like a whole bunch of memory on my phone that I'm like full of jokes of all. See, the thing with me is that like I don't work on a joke for that much long. I'll go up, I'll do it 3 times on one night, and then I'll be like, okay, these jokes didn't work, so then I'll have another idea, then I'll bring it out. There's like a whole. That's why I started asking every comic how long they take for working on a joke, because I feel that like I've discarded a lot of things that probably have potential, but because I didn't know how to deliver it, then just
Yeah.
they're just backlogged.
And it's honestly better for you to like take time away from it and then come back
when you're...
with more experience
Uh-huh.
and just a better perspective than you did before.
Is there any jokes like that in your repertoire that like you have backlogged and you're like, you know what, on one of these days I'm gonna go back to it?
Nothing like on the top. Like I do all my stuff on my laptop, and so like I have a folder of like bits that like of stuff that's worked before, and like if I'm gonna do a show, I usually go through this and like, all right, I'll quit like do these for this 10-minute set.
It's very organized.
Yeah, I try to be in like I have another like file where it's like the stuff that I'm trying and like my go-to like go to a mic. And then I had like a gigantic folder of all the shit that I did try to write, and then it didn't work, and I just threw it in that folder. And I always have in the back of my head, I'm like, one day I'm gonna go through
the trash folder.
I'm gonna go through all those. But then I'm like, and then I just never do. I usually just try to write something new.
Yeah, news sometimes better, but still. What was I gonna ask you about the writing? What kind of programs do you use for writing? Is it just Microsoft
Just Word doc, yeah.
Okay. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about Scrivener, and then I got it, and I was like, oh man, I love this fucking program.
Yeah.
It's great. I've been recommending it to people.
And it's just like, is there like a different form, or like I feel like everyone when they write, like everyone's gonna write differently. You know what I mean? Like if there's a point where I like there's supposed to be like a joke, or like I'm supposed to leave time for like a reaction, I usually put like dot.
Yeah, the timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's basically like Word, but it's just you get to like organize those files instead of having one folder of like this Word document and then you open it up. It's just all on the side, and then you can just click back and forth between.
Ah, okay.
So like I've recently started, like in the beginning I just started putting like title. Now I have like version 1, this one if I've worked it, like draft.
Yeah, I usually do that a lot too, like draft 1, draft 2.
And then go back to it.
But yeah, I guess the only difference is I just have it in separate files. But that I feel like that would work better, because it's like sometimes I don't think of stuff if it's like in the like folder or anything. Like I don't see it, like the out of sight, out of mind type thing.
Yeah.
So if you do have everything on the side, I can see how that's like really beneficial.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a great program. How long have you been doing your podcast for?
I started that almost 4 years ago. It'll be like 4 years in like December.
Yeah, like 168 episodes, right?
Yes. No, 180.
180.
I did 185 this weekend.
Nice.
And that's just, I mean, I put up an episode every weekend since I've started this podcast. Whether it's like, and that consists of like 185 of my podcasts, a few like random podcasts I did, and then like I have podcasts where I've been a guest on.
Okay.
Like I'll probably upload this on one weekend, like down the road.
Yeah. Just
to like re-jog it, and then like it also gives me like an off weekend to like not have the pressure of trying to find a guest.
I know, dude. Like seriously, like I've started doing this. I've been booking myself too much. I'm like, I got this person next. I was like, I want to like hand this podcast out to someone else. Hey, here, you got free time.
But the smartest thing to do is before you start is get a bunch of episodes logged up and just like release one once a week.
I think you're gonna be episode 6.
Okay. See, that's good that you already have a few logged up, right?
Hustling.
Yeah, and it's smart because then as long as you just do once a week from then on, then you're like always ahead.
Yeah, I'm on that. You did the episode with Erickson and Alex. Did you use 2 mics?
I used Erickson. Erickson has one of those like Zoom, like the portable ones, and so that has like you can put 4 inputs. Oh, nice. And so he brought that over, and I was able to use that, and so we all had our own mics.
I had the episode with Ben Thompson and Ian Van Leer. And they were using one mic back and forth. I was like, oh my god, this is hard. I don't want to do this.
Yeah, it's tricky because I want to do more podcasts where I feature more comics on one episode, but it's like I have the exact same like setup as you do, where you just have 2 mics and like that's the most you can do. Yeah, it's tough. I want to stick to just one-on-one first. Yeah, and it's good to do. It's just now I'm at that point where I'm like, I want to get more people on, and I now have to borrow people's stuff. I have to, luckily I know a good amount of people, between Erickson Just, Eric Rocha, and then Travis having that studio at Fourth Wall. I know I can float between the 3 of them.
Have you ever recorded there?
We did We did a New Year's podcast.
Oh yeah, I think I remember watching that for like a quick second, and then I was just like, I gotta get back to my shit.
Right, and that was a lot of fun. That was probably one of the most like, it was like so spur of the moment, and like none of us really had anything going on New Year's Eve, and it was fun just to have. Like, I enjoyed doing that than I ever did, like, going out and, like, trying to party or something like that on New Year's Eve.
That sounds like a great time.
Yeah. You know, you save so much money.
Just bring some beers and, like, fucking beers.
You know, we got some pizza, got some beer, and, like, we were set.
That was nice.
You know?
Nice. I'm so jealous. Every time I see people doing stuff, I have this bad habit of, like, comparing myself to others, and I'm like, for example, the first person I ever compared myself to was Erickson, because he and I started around the same time. And then, like, the amount of, like, times he was going out and how he had a podcast and he was, like, doing all this shit, and I was like,
and how many times it didn't help him? No, I'm kidding.
He's talking to you directly, Erickson.
I know. You're like, don't do what he's doing.
Yeah. So that was, like, I was like, oh, man, I got, there's more work that I can do. And then, like, even when I was first doing open mics and going out, I was happy with going out once a week, and I would even, like, treat myself to, like, some salmon sushi. And it got a little bit expensive. And then this one guy, I never caught his name, but we were at Flappers and he was talking to the other comics, right? And he was like, yeah, this is my 6th one today.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck? Like, it was like,
right.
It was
Especially
like,
those weekends.
Yeah. I was like, where did, there's more? You know?
That's funny.
Yeah, talking to him, he told me about the LA Comedy Bureau, and then I was finally able to expand my world outside of Flappers. But yeah, dude, it gets expensive.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, when I really first started, I used to compare myself to, like, all the people that I was doing mics with. And I used to think, oh, man, like, they have all these shows. Like, oh, man, like, I wish I could do that, you know? And then it sort of, like, creates the wrong thing you want. Because you're like, oh, man, I, like, gotta compete. I gotta get a bunch of shows. And then you, like, hop on these shows. And then you aren't necessarily ready for them.
Right.
You know? Where it's like, those first 2 years, you should just be doing mics. And just writing as much as you can.
You know, if you're funny, people are gonna ask you to be on.
Yeah, and then like now I'm at a point where like I really do not care about anyone else doing any of these open mics. You know, so someone had a good point. He's like, no one in that room is gonna pay for your tickets.
Right.
You know, none of them are. You know, and it's like maybe, and out of the percentage of people that do make it to the next level, it's not a high percent either. So.
Do you think we're in a boom?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think it's gonna burst eventually?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think right now what's going to happen is people, like entertainers, like celebrities, are just going to start making their own networks. Like if you look at what Conan O'Brien is doing, like he changed his format of his show, and now he does his own podcast. He's doing his own like productions and his own shows. And if you look over like Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky, their podcast, they were with All Things Comedy no, they're not on their podcast network, and they were on All Things Comedy for a while, and now they're not, and now they're just doing their own sort of All Things network, because now their own like channel on YouTube, they're doing their own sort of productions. That's where I see everything going.
Is that one of your goals too?
I think it's inevitable for all of us.
I wanted to talk to, I did talk to Travis many months ago about like, it'd be great if we could just like have a little, kind of like the All Things Comedy, but like it was just like a network of podcasts, you know, because I knew that he knew Erickson, and it was like, you know, Alex Stan. I was like, you know, what if we like, you know, connected and just like, you know, made a website or whatever, I'll pay for the website, and then we could just upload it there. And he was like, oh, I have plans. And then, like, that's when, like, Fourth Wall TV came out. Yeah. And then he was doing his thing, and I was like, all right, cool. So maybe if my podcast gets...
And they got all the wrong people involved with it, and now it's a complete failure.
Is it?
No.
I was like, I stopped following, man.
Yeah, you see why? You stopped following it? Because it's, you know, no, I don't mean to trash on them, but...
This podcast is sponsored by Fiji
I know.
Water.
We got everything.
I honestly bought this... This is the first time I've ever bought Fiji water.
It's good water.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm okay. All right.
It's great water. It's expensive, but it's great. Fiji, yeah, you can't. It feels like you're in Fiji.
I have people at work, customers will call it Fuji water.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it confuses me. I was like, because there's Fuji apples, but I was like, is there a proper way to say Fuji?
I always thought those apples were called Fiji apples.
The people in Fiji call these apples Fuji. Oh man, that's funny. Let's see.
How do you like working at Trader Joe's? Is it like, do you deal with a lot of annoying people?
Yeah, I do. It's
like the most organic, needy white people.
It's
Is it like
more,
old white women that are like the neediest?
No, you see it all, and it's not necessarily about like it's just customer service that they're angry about. It's like they expect things. Like if we don't have something stocked, they get mad at you personally for like, why don't you have this? I come here every week. And then there's like, those customers who like swear that they bought it here last week, but we've never carried that item here before. Well, what can you do? It's like, the other day, the weirdest thing happened. It was so every time there's like a female customer, I'll always say like, oh, hi miss, how you doing? Like, miss. Because this one time this lady said to me like, oh, I would rather you call me a cunt than call me ma'am. And I was like, that's the last time I'm saying ma'am.
So, what is this? Was she an old woman?
No, she wasn't. She was I mean, she was older than me, but like she didn't look old or anything. She was just a lady. And she was like, I'd rather you call me a cunt than ma'am. And I was like, all right, then it's miss from now on. And the girls like it. And so I'm on the express lane. I'm working with this lady, and I was like, hello miss, how you doing? Doing the thing. And then like I hear there's this guy, there's a lady behind the lady, and then a black guy behind her, right?
Oh, here we go.
And then he says to the girl in front of him, like, oh, you hear that? They always get it wrong or something like that. And then like the lady goes, and I say, miss, how you doing? Do the thing, and then next, and I was like, oh, hey man, how you doing, right? And he's like, it's not man, it's mister. And I was like,
sir.
I was like, mister. I was like, I could understand sir, but mister. And I was like, oh, sorry, dude. And I'm like, like I can call you mister if you want. And, was like, and then I think he mumbled something about ma'am. And I was like, and so I swear to God, I thought he wanted me to call him ma'am. I didn't say it. And I was like, so I just tried to get like his explanation. I was like, so like because I've met these people before. Like they're either military, they expect like a lot of respect. Are you from
like, what up, dog?
Yeah, like are you from the South or something? And then no, he just didn't want to talk to me, and it pissed me off because I was like, it's one thing for me to tell me I'm wrong, right? But tell me why I'm wrong. Explain. But he just wouldn't talk to me. I was like, all right. I hear he's a dick though.
Really? What's poppin', man? Let's get it going.
Hey yo.
Yeah, you should do that. Hey yo.
I can't.
So like uncommon. Hey yo. Don't make eye contact. Dude? Yeah. I'll get your items swiped up. One bag, no. Bag on the house for you.
Yeah. So here, free bags, dude. No 10 cents for you. Oh man. Yeah.
No, my girlfriend and I were in West Hollywood at like a smoothie bar, looking at stuff, and she like asked a question to someone, and people would like, they would ask us, like one woman came up to us, and she's like telling us about like the stuff they had, like what's good for this and what's good for that, and then she goes like, oh, is that your partner? And like, and another person's like, oh, is that your partner? And so they didn't like identify them by girlfriend or boyfriend or like husband or wife. They just partner.
Whoa.
Because they don't want to say like, if she's a he and I'm a girl, I'm not a he or a she. You know what I mean? Like, like no one knows anything. So like, oh, are you their partner? And so it is funny to see that like the technicality of certain areas.
It's frustrating. I mean, I'm all for it, but it's like, don't make me an asshole just because I didn't say it right.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part. But yeah, aside from that, I tell people that like it's the longest summer job I've ever had because I've been there 9 years. It's gonna be 10 years in September, and it's crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah. You're how old?
I'm 24.
24. Man, I'm 30.
Yeah, you don't look 30.
Oh, thank you very much. I like to keep my
it's
all that good Trader Joe's food, all organic. Oh man, yeah. I think I started, when I was 25. It's like I tell everybody that I've been doing stand-up comedy. Like if you put all the days back to back for 6 months.
Yeah.
But I've been saying that for 6 months already. So it's like no, I have to tell people that I've been doing it for 2 years now. It's just like I don't want to admit it though.
And that's it is a weird thing to admit, When I first started, I was like, man, like I don't know what. It's just so weird, awkward. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I'm doing it for 5.
Do you write every night, or do you keep them 2 days off to like really like?
I used to write. I used to try to write every day. Now I don't as much. But I do like. If I go like experience, like I usually have like a same weekly ordeal that I do every week of just like consistency of work and like doing the mics that I do and like just going like the same places, being here. And so like if something comes up where like it's out of the ordinary, then like I'll take that experience and like note it and sort of like come up with some ideas, so when I do go write, I'll write about that.
Okay.
You know, or like let it soak in.
2 questions came up in my mind. The first one is like, are you a day writer or a night writer?
Day.
Day in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
A cup of coffee, like right first thing in the morning?
Yeah, in like the afternoon.
Okay. And
like,
the second thing that came up, shit, I lost it. So it was, what were you,
where I like to write, or?
no, you were saying that, oh yeah, the second question was like, what is your bottom line? Like, you know, within a week you have to be like for sure I'm gonna go to open a mic for sure, right? That's like, what
yeah. The minimum I like to at least do like 4 or 5 mics a week.
like that, like you don't do anything less than that unless there's an event, right?
Yeah, unless like something like I go out of town, something else comes up, some sort of like weird job I took, and then like I just try to write maybe like 2 like I want to try to write every day, but maybe like comes out like 2 times a week or something.
Do you journal?
I usually just I email stuff to myself.
Oh, cool. That's a smart way to do it.
You know, and like when I have my laptop open to like my Word documents, I can just copy and paste it.
That's smart. That's smart.
Mm.
I've been using notes on my phone.
Oh yeah, that's
And
smart
like,
too.
but then like, you know, they get lost in the ether of like scrolling.
Yeah.
Did you come up with any jokes from the painting that you've been doing out there?
Yeah, I did one joke where I talked about how like, because a guy, I had to paint those stairway railings and like these poles, and someone else was supposed to do it originally.
Okay.
And so he did like the first day and then he quit, and I was like, I'll do it. And like the joke that I have is like, they were like, oh, you've done this before? Like you know how to do it? And I'm like, no, never. And they're like, would you do it for like $500? I was like, I'll do it for 600. And they're like, it's a deal.
Yeah,
and then
you value your time.
And then I talk about how bad of a job I did.
Oh.
You know, and I'm like,
it's a $600 job.
Yeah, you know.
How much were they gonna pay the other guy that they were gonna?
I think 500.
They were only gonna pay him. Oh.
Because that's what the manager told me. She's like, I think you're gonna give me either 500 or 600. And I was like, I'll do it for 600. You know.
Lucky. Oh man, there's so many questions, but I get so intimidated when I'm in front of people. Like I want to interview like every headliner that's been there. So like, you know, there's Joe, there's Eric, but I don't think I'm like at my interviewing skills are there yet.
Well, what do you want to ask?
I don't know yet. It was very organic. There's no format.
Oh,
here.
okay.
It's very free flowing. I really want to get to know you.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know, like ask you about like who's one of your favorite comics.
Right now, I like Sebastian Maniscalco and Tom Segura. Those are my 2.
You know, I see like a Tom Segura vibe from you.
Yeah.
You get that a lot?
yeah, I've gotten that compliment a lot.
Yeah, nice.
Not Sebastian. Not that one.
So animated. Dude, like Sebastian's made me laugh so hard a couple nights, especially when you watch it high, you know, just fucking blow up.
Have you seen him go up at the store?
No,
Have you ever
dude,
gone?
no.
He's really funny at the store.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like, it's stuff that he'll like work on, and it's like, it's just so, and when you see him in that lineup, like all those guys and all those like chicks are all really good comics. But when you see him go up, it's just a world of difference.
Oh man, I have to see that. I have to watch Joey do the store. I watched.
Yeah,
Joe
you
Rogan
definitely
do
gotta see Joey.
Yeah.
Joey's he's a force to like reckon with.
Were you there when he did the thing at
Not at Fourth Wall,
Not at
but
Fourth
for the
Wall?
longest time I had seen him at the store because I would go there and just watch.
You go Tuesdays, right?
Yeah, I would go on like Mondays or Tuesdays. I would just go and sit in the back and just watch. Or Tuesdays, yeah.
Do you ever do mics up there?
I haven't done them in a long time. I used to try to, like, I think there was a year where I went like every Monday. And I think I got it like twice, I think.
How they go?
But terrible.
Terrible?
So one of the most uncomfortable experiences.
What was the crowd like? Was it just open micers?
Open micers in the back. The one time I did, I think there was like 4 people that just, you know, because they start right when people start walking in. You know, so they sat like 4 people. And I think the other time maybe they had like the first 2 rows filled. And it's just like, you have the pressure because you're in the comedy store, you're in the OR, and then you have the booker watching you, and then on top of that you have technically 2/3 of the audience, which are the open micers in the back. They're watching, but they're not laughing.
Yeah.
You know, which is so intimidating. And then like, yeah, like I think I got some people to laugh in the actual audience, and so like that was good, but it was like still just so much pressure is on you.
And then you got all those ghosts watching you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man, I've stayed away from doing any big like auditions anywhere else because I'm like I don't think I'm there yet. Like,
Yeah, it's smart. You know, and it's better to go in there with people that like. If you know paid regulars, it's better to go in there knowing them.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna help you more than going there. I've seen people go there for years on end and not make any really much headway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's like if you know these paid regulars, you get bumped. Like you collect $200 and get to go around the boardwalk again. You know what I mean? Like it's you get on the fast track.
That's cool. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Who's part of your like graduating class of like stand-up comics? Okay, well, you know what? You said you've been doing it for 5 years, right? But you're only been in LA for how long?
5 years.
Oh,
6
5 years.
Yeah.
6
So I moved out here in November of 2013, and then I just got into stamps since then.
Nice. So jealous. so yeah, like your graduating class, or
well, you mean like the guys I've been doing it the longest with?
or yeah, you know, so there'd be Joe that you know.
I knew Joe. The people who I really like. When I first started, I didn't really have too many friends in like the first year to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I really got going, that's when I met like Eric Rocha, I met Brock Walters, I met Alex Kane, I met Mike Moratori. Those are like the first group of people that I still know like to this day.
Mm-hmm.
That like we would do mics with and like shows with.
Awesome.
Alan Peterson was another great comic that was around. And then like that's when we were going to Oyster House, and that was before Fourth Wall was even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Around that time, that was when I met Joe because I went to like the living room show, and like I met him there, and then that's how I sort of like got into like the living room show and like residuals here and there, and then that's when he started Fourth Wall, and then it's that's where in the last like 2 years that's where I met like great comics like you and like other great comics.
Great comics like me. Appreciate that though.
And like Travis, he was another one that, I met through Fourth Wall.
Joe, I'm surprised that Joe can remember everybody's name. It seems like he's known my name forever.
Well, he doesn't have a life. He doesn't.
He's all that. He's all
when
comedy.
you go to the apartment show, you'll understand everything.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
Comics life.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
If you look at his bathroom, it hasn't been clean since I've known him.
The Fourth Wall bathroom? Or
no, his actual apartment bathroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, so there's like now it makes sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to go into the Fourth Wall and like just pour bleach into that toilet.
Yeah. All over the Fourth Wall.
No, that's where the comedy is. The comedy juice is called back to the last episode. Yeah, man. What was I gonna say? So I asked you about that. So you really like Sebastian. Dude, I'm blanking.
What great comics do you like right now?
Well, my favorite right now is Bill Burke, just because I've been listening to his podcast for Monday for a couple years. But now I just remember something. Louis C.K.
Yeah.
He's the only comic I've ever seen his material change.
Yeah.
I've watched him perform 3 times before he did his 2017 stand-up special. He did one in Oxnard, which was like I got an email. It was like, I'm gonna be in Oxnard like tomorrow. I'm like, bought my ticket, went to the thing, saw the set. It was great, amazing. And then I saw it again in Long Beach, and then I watched the 2017 Netflix special, and I saw how the jokes changed and like some of the ones that he took out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I wish he would have kept that first one, but it wasn't there. And I was like, oh, it's still a great show.
Yeah.
Do you ride higher or sober?
Sober.
Sober.
9 times out of 10 sober.
Okay.
But I mean, if I do smoke weed, it's before I go to bed.
Okay.
And so like usually I'm just knocking out. But if I do think of like something funny, like I'll write it down or something like that. But not, and then 9 times out of 10 on that, it never works. So I think maybe I've run one joke high and I'm like, this works. I think.
Do you improvise on stage?
Yeah. I feel confident enough to do it now.
Okay.
I feel like for the first time this year, in like the last month, I've run a joke on stage just talking and like just talking about it, and the way I talked about it was just like the way I would have written it out.
Oh, sweet.
You know,
yeah,
and
so
then
it's like becoming like a.
Yeah, and that was really cool. That's where I feel confident. Being like, I feel like I have the right idea of what my voice is. You know, because when that happened, I was like, oh no shit, like that actually worked, and like, you know, because like the bits I'd done before weren't really working. Then I just like free flowed this thing about like IKEA and like the pictures they sell, and like it worked, and I was like, oh wow, like that is like the ultimate goal that you want. You know?
I've had like spurts of inspiration where like I don't know where the joke comes from, but like it'll make people laugh, and when I try to recreate it, it just doesn't work the same. But it's still pretty interesting.
I do like. I mean, before I go up, like when I did your show, there's things that I said like the audience is a little stiff, and so I talked about how I drove for Uber, and I was like, I started driving for Uber, and then I was like, just so you know, you guys know, when you get one home, you might have to hear this again, you know, and so like I'll think of stuff like that before I go up to like, but that's a usual gauge on like what the audience is like, you know, if I need to like call them out or like say anything like that, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not a very good on my feet, as you can tell by this podcast format.
Well, no, it just takes time to get good at. You know, I used to never be good at doing like stuff on. I used to think of like something to say. Like I used to want to be good at like riffing or something in between, or something like to say as you first got on stage. And like for the longest time, for like 2 or 3 years, I would think of something and it would just completely bomb my set. Where if there was a chance of me getting stuff from the material that I wrote, there's no chance now. And then like it took me for the longest, and then I would get done off stage. I'm like, yeah, never doing that again. And then it just took, and then I would do it again like foolishly. I'm like, yeah, that's why I said last time I want to do this, because this doesn't work. And then it just took the like 2 or 3 years for me to like actually have something hit. I'm like, oh, there we go.
Just like an alcoholic.
Just
never doing this again. Oh man, I was gonna say like the first show I hosted. Like, hosting is a completely different monster.
Oh yeah.
Like, I thought it was gonna be fine, but there's like a lot of work you gotta do into like fucking setting up the beginning intro, and then just like having something to say about every comic that comes up. And like the first time I did the hosting, everything I would say about a comic, it was just like the audience wouldn't laugh, and it was just like came off as mean. And I would be like, you know what, just next comic's name, just like here we go.
Yeah, that's the smartest thing to do. I don't like to host, but it is like something. It's a completely different talent that you do have to work on. You know.
You know what I liked about something I overheard you say is that because you have the free show once a month, is that like you'd like to have a fresh new 5 minutes every time.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome. I wanted to try to recreate that, but it doesn't work out. You're putting on a lot of work.
That's my goal with just writing. Is each month I write like my goal is to get 5 minutes of new material. So at the end of the year you have 60 minutes, and so at the end of each month I take a notepad and I write down like, all right, like I came up with these bits. I write down how long they are, and then I usually just try to do them on like that show, because I just know I'm doing that show every month, and that's just like my showcase show for those new material that I come up with.
That's something interesting that you just mentioned. I haven't heard anybody write down how long a bit is. Like you write, you time your jokes.
Yeah, well, I can usually gauge if it's a minute or 2 minutes, or like half a minute. It's usually those like I usually write in those realms. I wish I could write a 5-minute bit and just have like fucking 12 5-minute bits. That'd be easy, you know. But I usually. My goal is to get the 5 minutes every month. I don't get it every month. I should be harder on myself, but I do keep track. So I've kept track of like the last 2 years, and so it's like I've gone through like the notebook, and so it's like if I do have something, like if I were to do a really big set or a really big special, which I know I'm nowhere near confident or capable of doing, I know I can go through that and like, okay, like this is how we're gonna go through everything.
So you probably have like a 30-minute set.
Yeah, I feel confident. Yeah.
That's a Netflix special, right?
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. I the last comic I interviewed, the way he does it also is he's working towards an hour. Like, that's what he's constantly doing. Like, right now, I'm putting in things, taking things out, and I was like, that's a different way of looking at setting up your material. Because I personally, I'm just like trying to figure out what's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I sort of want to work towards 2 hours, and just have like 1 hour and then have another and just still have that extra. Because I feel like once you do that for that hour special, then you're like back to the bottom. You gotta clean the slate. You gotta rewrite everything.
I heard on a Bill Burr's podcast that Brian Regan used to have 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Like, he's got 2 notebooks or whatever. I don't know, like, pretty awesome.
That's funny.
How do you like the format of my my competition show? What do you think about competition?
I'm not the biggest fan of competition shows.
Okay.
I think your format is one of the better ones to have people vote after each comic. I think that's the smartest thing to do. Because I think I did a competition show. I did the Uncle Clyde's at Flappers, and 10 comics perform 5 minutes, and only 3 get to like place, and then 2 get to move on to the next round. But you're not going to remember all 10 of those comics. And like the way they do is you vote at the end of the show. And so you're going to remember the last 3 people you saw, and like whoever you came to see, and maybe one person stuck out in the middle.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I went up towards the end, so I like placed second, and then the guy who placed first was the guy who went up last.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if you have everyone wait to vote to the end, they're not going to really remember and give a fair voting.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have people voting in between, I think is a better system. Is one of the best systems I've seen.
Oh, thanks, man. I really put a lot of thought into it. I wanted to get big. Like, see, I get a lot of people talking about the name of the show, which is Bringer Show, right?
Yeah. It's not the most attractive thing.
Right. Like, when I was going, before, like, the first show, I was struggling to find comics to want to perform, right? It was like, oh, is it a Bringer Show? I was like, yes, it's called the Ultimate. Like, no, I'm not interested. And I thought that was terrible because I think all shows are Bringer shows. And just the fact that I'm putting it out there, like, you know, it's like, I thought the money would have been attractive. Like, you know, if you bring more people, I mean, like, I think that every comic wins as long as they have a real audience to perform for, you know? And the first night that we had like 50 people in the probably 40 people, I'm exaggerating, in the 4th wall, and it was a great show. It was packed, you know, people were standing, and it was like the laughter was like, you know, I had comics who were standing outside who was like, hey, can I do 5 minutes? I was like, yeah, come on in, you know? And it was great, but this last show, I had like 3 comics who didn't bring anybody. And I was like, well, no, that's not the point of the show. I want the show to be like, you know, like if you bring people, awesome. You know, like at the end of the day, what you want is to perform for people. And I guess that leads me to this question. Do you believe in quantity over quality? Or would you, I mean, it's great that if you can have both.
I don't know. I feel like quality is better. That's a hard question with stand-up comedy. You know?
Because all time is good time, right?
Yeah, with comedy, that's such a tough thing to answer with stand-up comedy because so many people. There's a lot of bad comics we know who get shows, and there's people who go to them and probably have a great time. But to us, we don't get that because we know that person's not that good. You know, and so you know, that question is hard to answer with that type of thing, you know. So we know, I mean, between you and I, we can probably name 10 comics who should not be getting shows, and they're getting more shows than both of us combined. Yeah. You know, and so the quality's not there, so I guess the answer is quality.
Quantity?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess I meant like in, what I meant by that, like, is it better to do, like 100 open mics in front of comics, or is it better to do one big show in front of like a live audience?
Probably 100 open mics.
Okay. Cool, because you're going out. I mean, what about like, you know, becoming that like a comics comic that only the comics are gonna laugh because, you know, they have 6 sense of humor?
I don't think it's the best thing to be, but I don't think it's the wrong thing to be. I think you can still balance between the fine line. Okay. You know, because it's like if you look at like Brody Stevens or Brian Regan, like they're like, you really have to understand comedy to understand their acts, you know. But then if you look at Bill Burr, who's like been named like a comics comic, like he's still hilarious to like the average Joe who does roofing for a living, you know. It's there's so many different definitions in that too.
It's very interesting. I guess where I was going with it was okay, so for this next show that I'm about to do, right, I haven't done any open mics this whole month. I'm kind of sad that I haven't been able to do it because I've been working so hard on trying to get this show off. That I started thinking about how at the Comedy Store it's their gym, right? They test out new bits, but in front of a live audience.
Right.
So what I'm gonna try, I'm probably not gonna do it, but I was wondering, like, maybe I'll get better feedback from trying a fresh bit in front of a live audience and see how that goes.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll get more feedback from that. Maybe I might learn faster.
I think you should try it.
You think so?
Yeah.
What if I ruin the show again? I blame myself for that last show too.
Well, was it really much of a? I had a great set. No, like, if someone has something really funny to say, regardless of who went up before them or who goes up after them, it's gonna hit if that audience likes it. So I don't think that should, the people that are on the show know what they're getting themselves into. You shouldn't be worried too much about them.
Okay.
Like, the only thing that you should guarantee is yourself and then the headliner, whoever that person is. But the people who are in the competition, like, they gotta compete. 'Cause they gotta win that money.
Yeah, they gotta win that audience too.
So, and the audience is voting right then and there. So it's like, you're making it harder for them. When I hosted the mic at Flappers, when I did the Thursdays, I wanted to be a shitty room. Yeah. So I wanted it to be rough for people. I didn't want people to succeed. I want people to fail so they could learn, and so that if they did have a really good joke, then we'd all know that guy is a really good girl. That they have a really good fucking joke. Yeah. That just worked in one of the shittiest rooms.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna run into it eventually, as if you're really
it's
on this
inevitable,
path, right?
But I mean, if that's what you really want to try, is just like go a month without doing mics and just see if you can, like,
survive.
Yeah, then do it. You're not gonna lose anything.
You're you're motivating me, man.
And then, like, because you'll learn from that, and then you'll sort of like understand, like, okay, when I do go to open mics, all right, this is the type of comedy I gotta work on. This is this type of stuff I gotta work on, so I know it works in the shows. Because it is, when you do too many open mics. And, like, if you do stay in, like, Los Angeles for so long, you do get in that bubble where you're like, and then you go out to, like, Kansas and you're like, no one knows what the fuck Uber is,
Yeah.
So.
You're right.
I'm sure they have Uber, but, like, no one knows what, like, a Sprouts is,
Yeah, like, or Ralph's. I don't know if there's Ralph's over there. Yeah, man, it's very interesting. Like, what are some of the risks you take at doing stand-up?
I mean, I've said things where it's like, I probably shouldn't have said it.
Abortion jokes?
Yeah, I did one that was a long time ago. One time I went up and tried to speak, like, I tried to mockingly speak Japanese, and then, like, I was like, what I just said is this, and, like, just fucking bombed. That was another thing where, like, I thought of, like, oh, I'll just do this up front and then get the material, and, like, and it just taints the whole set.
It's funny. It's a great story though. What speaking of stories, what's been your best set? Like, you love thinking about that one. Like, I want you, that's your bar. Like, I want everything to go up to there.
One time Eric Roach and I went up to the Hong Kong Inn in Ventura. Okay. And we, like, it was such a funny, like, I had heard about it. Was a Wednesday night mic, and I had heard about it, and I wanted to go. And Roach, I was like, let's go up there. And so then we headed up there, and we go to this bar. It's an Asian restaurant with, like, a stage. There's, like, a dance floor. And it's, like, not ideal comedy space. And then, like, on top of that, they're doing trivia that night. So they do, like, trivia. Like, they do questions, and they have a comic go up, do the set. And they do, like, 3 rounds of questions. And then, like, I was going up right after they got done with trivia. Okay. And then Roach was going up after me, and it was the most packed in the room that it had ever been. So we talked, like, the other comics, like, yeah, they've never had this many people here before. And so I went up and I just had a great set. Nice. And it was just such a cool, like, it was funny because I remember, like, just, like, hitting, like a joke, and it just, like, worked really well. I, like, looked over at Roach and I was like, here we fucking go, and but it was funny. And then he went back to me and had, like, a great set too. And then we just fucking died. Then we got out Dodge.
Yeah. Have you hit the road at all?
I mean, I've done, like, stuff in, like, Ohio, like, where I'm from, and then like, I did, like, a festival in Kentucky, and I did, like, another festival in San Francisco. But those were, like, 2 or 3 years ago. I haven't really done too much.
Have you thought about hitting the, like, college circuit?
Yeah, but you have to be really clean, and you have to have an hour.
You're clean though, right?
Some stuff,
Yeah.
I'd say like 1/3 of my stuff is clean, where it's not like swearing or like talking about something.
Gross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something not PC. All right, so I asked you about the best show. And what's been the worst show? Like, bomb.
I
dead.
tried to like I used to
You
black them
forget.
out. I think the worst was when I first started. I used to like write down my sets word by word, and like I wouldn't be able to remember them. And so I'd go up with like my notes, and I was like, I'm gonna read these word by word.
Yeah.
And then I like said that I was like, I got my jokes here. I'm gonna read them. And then the owner of the comedy club was like, just called me out. He's like, you don't tell jokes up there. He said something along those lines.
Oh.
And then like everyone just laughed at what he fucking said.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And then like the room starts to shake, and then
Mm.
I've tried reading. I have this notion in my head that I'm a better writer than I am a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so like one time I went up with paper, but like I kept losing my spot. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck it, whatever, just trash it.
Mm.
I also did that, like trying to memorize every joke word by word.
Yeah.
So this is your path, huh? You're gonna be doing stand up.
Mm. Yeah.
Nice, dude. You discovered this when you were 16?
Yeah. There was the Funny Style Comedy Club was it's in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and that's where I grew up. And so it was like maybe like a 10 to 15 minute drive from where I grew up at.
What was that first time up there?
I don't really remember it.
No?
I didn't do well, I know that.
But you didn't quit?
Yeah.
That's
no.
right. And so after that, you just decided to come to LA to do
Yeah, because I wanted to take it more serious. So I was like, I want to go to LA or I want to go to New York. And I was like, I want to go to LA.
I was listening to Eric's podcast, and they mentioned New York a lot, how like everybody's jumping around.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to do it, but one of these days, maybe, after my kids are grown up and out of here.
But yeah, you can do like a bunch of mics and just put in a lot of work.
Who's your favorite open micer?
You.
Oh, shut up. All right, I'll keep it there just to not call out anybody. Okay, why didn't you say me, man? Oh shit, we've done an hour.
Nice.
Oh, awesome. I don't know. Do you want to plug anything? It's gonna come out in probably 5 weeks. So anything?
Hey, that's perfect. I got some coming out.
I was like, I'll be on the road. In New York.
5 weeks in now. No, just follow me on social media, comic Rob Banks, and check out my podcast, Banks Heist, on iTunes and Stitcher and SoundCloud. So
nice. You guys heard it here. All right. Follow comic Rob Banks. All right. Thanks.
Thanks again for having me.
Thanks for being on my show, man.
Anytime, man.
All right. Awesome. And we're done.
Nice.
Nice. All right. That wasn't that bad.
No, it was perfect.
That was quick too.
Yeah.
I've been trying. I was going to mention about your podcast. So today I listened to it on the website. And I clicked on the website, which is through Stitcher, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to download the app.
Or SoundCloud?
I have SoundCloud, so I'm going to try to find you on SoundCloud now. But I've noticed the volume is very low.
Yeah, I gotta turn it up.
Okay.
I keep getting that complaint.
Yeah, I was like, it was at max, and I was like, trying to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because Erickson told me the same thing where the volume's like that, and I'm like, when I try to raise it up, it like, you know how when we talk, if it's too loud, it goes in the red, and so when I raise it up too high, it goes in the red a lot. Then he told me, he's like, no, you have to do that and just compress it like that.
Okay.
But that's just when I gotta mess with it more.
What program do you use for?
Just GarageBand.
GarageBand? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to use my iPad at all. Oh wait, I should stop fucking video.
Yeah, I have a Mac